The alien jungle was never quiet. Even at night, strange lights glowed from the plants and the air was full of soft clicks, hisses. In the distant rumble of unseen creatures, Cale moved carefully through the undergrowth, his boots sinking into the damp soil. His mission was simple: return to camp before the twin moons disappeared behind the clouds. But he knew that in this place, even a simple walk could become a fight for survival. He kept one hand on his plasma pistol and the other, brushing the thick vines out of his path. The smell of wet leaves and alien flowers was heavy in the air, almost too sweet. He had learned in the first week here that beauty in this jungle usually hid danger. Then, sound cut through the night. It wasn't the hiss of an animal or the rustle of branches. It was a scream, high, sharp, and full of pain. Cale froze for only a second before moving toward it. His instincts screamed at him to be careful, but his heart told him someone was in trouble. He pushed through the vines, his breath quickening, as scanning every shadow. The scream came again, this time weaker. Cale broke into a run. He pushed through a wall of hanging moss and stopped cold. In a small clearing under the eerie glow of blue mushrooms, a young alien woman was trapped. A massive snake, its scales glistening like black glass, was coiled around her. The creature's eyes burned red, and each time it tightened its grip, her body jerked. She clawed at the coils, gasping for air, her silver hair sticking to her face. Cale didn't think he aimed and fired. The plasma bolt hit the snake's side, burning a smoking hole in its scales. The beast hissed, but instead of releasing her, it lashed out with lightning speed. The tail whipped across the clearing, striking Cale in the chest. He flew backward, hitting the ground hard, his pistol sliding into the bushes. Before he could get up, the snake began slithering toward him, its huge body dragging the alien girl along like a trophy. Cale tried to crawl to his pistol, but the creature was too fast. Its head reared above him, fangs dripping with thick venom. He could smell it, sharp, chemical, deadly. Then something happened. The alien girl's eyes snapped open, glowing gold in the dim light. Her hands, which had been clawing helplessly at the snake's body, suddenly clenched tight around its neck. Her face twisted, not in fear, but in rage. The snake jerked. Hissing in confusion, with a sharp cry, she twisted her whole body, forcing the coils to loosen. She slipped free and rolled to her feet, her breathing harsh but steady. Cale pushed himself up, still stunned. The girl turned toward the snake, her muscles tense. Then, with a speed that didn't seem possible, she leaped onto its back, wrapping her arms around its neck. The snake thrashed, smashing against trees, trying to throw her off. She held on, her eyes locked on its head. And then, with one violent motion, she twisted. A loud crack split the air. The snake's body went limp. It slumped to the ground, and the girl stood over it, chest rising and falling, her hands still twitching with leftover power. Cale took a step toward her. "Are you all right?" She turned her head slowly, her golden eyes still glowing faintly. For a moment, Cale thought she would thank him. But her lips curved into a strange smile. "You interfered," she said softly, her voice like the hiss of the jungle wind. Cale frowned. "We're about to die." Her smile widened, but there was no warmth in it. She took a step closer, and he noticed that her hands were shaking, not from weakness, but from some kind of energy. "That was my trial," she said. "You ruined it." Before Cale could answer, she moved so fast he barely saw it. Her hand shot out, grabbing his arm. The grip was like steel, and he could feel the strength in her fingers. She leaned closer, her face only inches from his. Now she whispered, "I have to prove myself. With you." Cale's instincts told him to draw back, but something about Hertho's glowing eyes, that strange strength, kept him frozen. In place, the jungle seemed to go quiet around them, as if holding its breath. Somewhere in the darkness, a low, rumbling roar echoed. The sound made the girl's eyes narrow. She released his arm and looked toward the trees. "More are coming." Cale finally found his voice. "More snakes?" She gave him a quick, sharp smile. "Worse." The roar came again, closer this time, and the ground beneath them began to tremble. Cale bent down to grab his pistol from the bushes, his heart pounding. The girl stood ready, her hands curling into fists. They didn't know each other, and they didn't trust each other. But whatever was coming through the jungle, they would have to face it together. And somewhere deep in Cale's mind, one thought stuck like a thorn. If she could kill a monster like that with her bare hands, else was she capable of? The roar faded, replaced by the distant sound of heavy movement through the jungle. But Leora Cale guessed that was her name from the way the tribe had once shouted. It didn't look worried. She was still watching him with those glowing gold eyes, her expression unreadable. "You didn't need to save me," she said, voice low but sharp. "Now, I must make things right." Cale frowned. "Things right? You're welcome, by the way." Instead of answering, she stepped closer. Her movements were smooth, deliberate, like a predator closing in. Cale noticed the way her hands flexed. At her side, still twitching with strength. "What are you doing?" Cale asked, raising a hand in warning. Her only answer was sudden action. She lunged. Cale reacted just in time, sidestepping as her hand shot toward his throat. She spun with surprising speed, catching his wrist and twisting it. Pain shot up his arm. He dropped his pistol. "This is not anger," she said, almost calmly. "It is balance. You interfered with my trial, human. Now I must test your strength." She tried to pull him off his feet, but Cale had trained for years in close quarters. Combat. Using her own momentum, he pivoted and flipped her over his shoulder. She hit the ground with a grunt but rolled quickly, springing back up. Her eyes widened, not in pain but in surprise. "You fight well." Cale picked up his pistol, but didn't aim it. "And I don't like attacking people who aren't trying to kill me." A faint smile tugged at her lips. Not yet. Before Cale could process that, a shadow passed over them. Something large was moving through the trees above, the leaves shaking.
Eyes.
Cale's instinct screamed danger, but Leora didn't take her. Eyes off him. The growl came again, closer now. Cale saw branches sway under the weight of something massive, whatever that is. "We need to go," Cale said. For a moment, she didn't move. Then she tilted her head as if listening. "Two," she murmured. "There are two of them." Cale didn't ask how she knew. The answer came crashing through the foliage. From the tree line emerged to more giant snakes, but these were different. Their scales shimmered with an oily green glow, and their eyes burned an even deeper red. Each was twice the size of the one Leora had killed. Cale aimed his pistol. That would be a good time to work together. Leora gave him a single nod, but her gaze was still intense, as if she was testing him even in this moment of danger. Then the first snake lunged. Cale fired, the blast striking it in the jaw. The creature recoiled but didn't fall. His partner circled behind them. "Move," Cale shouted. They sprinted into the jungle, ducking under vines and leaping over thick roots. The snakes crashed through the undergrowth behind them, smashing trees in their wake. Cale could hear their bodies sliding over the ground. "Fast, too fast. We need higher ground," he called. Leora didn't answer, but she swerved sharply. To the right, pulling him toward a cluster of massive trees whose roots formed natural bridges over a ravine. They scrambled across, the wood groaning under their weight. One of the snakes struck, its head slamming into the roots, snapping a section in half. Cale nearly fell but caught himself. Leora grabbed his arm, hauling him back with surprising force. They dove into the shadow of a hollow log, breathing hard. Outside, the snakes hissed, their massive heads weaving back and forth, searching. Cale could feel the vibration of their movements through the ground. In the dark, he could see Leora's golden eyes watching him closely. Her voice was barely a whisper. "Humans are different." "Different how?" Cale whispered back. "You didn't run when I attacked. You fought back, and now you don't run from them either." Her eyes flicked toward the snakes outside. "My people? Most would have left me." Cale gave a faint, humorless smile. "Guess I'm not like your people." They stayed silent as the snakes moved away, the sounds of their bodies fading into the distance. Only when the jungle quieted did Leora crawl out of the log, offering him her hand. Cale hesitated but took it. Her grip was firm, still testing his strength, even in a simple pull to his feet. She didn't let go right away. The trial is not over, human. You will walk with me now. You will see what strength truly means. And if I don't? Kale asked. Her faint smile returned. Then the jungle will finish you before I can. Before Kale could answer, a distant drum beat echoed through the night. Air slow, steady, and growing louder. Leora's expression shifted from challenge to something colder. The tribe knows we are here, she said. Dad, and they will not welcome you. The drum beats were getting closer. They weren't random, they had a rhythm. Slow but commanding, like the heartbeat of the jungle itself. Kale could feel it in his chest. Leora's face was unreadable, but her eyes had lost that teasing glint from before. They're summoning the hunters, she said quietly. They'll be here soon. Kale adjusted his grip on the plasma pistol. Friends of yours? She didn't answer. Instead, she turned sharply and began moving through the trees, her steps light despite the thick undergrowth. Kale followed, glancing over his shoulder. The forest behind them seemed to shift the shadows deeper, the sounds sharper. Somewhere far off, the snakes hissed again, but they weren't the immediate threat now. What's the plan? Kale asked, pushing aside a curtain of vines. Not to be caught, Leora replied simply. They moved quickly, climbing over roots as tall as Kale's shoulders and ducking under low branches glowing with bioluminescent moss. Something strange, thin ropes made from twisted vines hanging from the trees. Some dangled with feathers, others with small bone charms that clicked together in the breeze. Decorations? Kale asked. Warnings, Leora said without looking back. This is the tribe's hunting ground. The drum beats grew louder, joined by distant shouts. They weren't random. Kale could hear the same word being called over and over in the alien tongue. He didn't know what it meant, but the tone was enough to make his skin crawl. Then the air shifted. A shadow moved high above. Kale glanced up, panned, saw them. Figures leaping between the branches, moving with terrifying speed. They wore armor made from snake scales, their faces painted in streaks of black and crimson. Some carried long, curved spears, others had nets woven from some kind of shimmering fiber. Hunters, Leora said, her voice low. If they catch you, they won't kill you quickly. Kale didn't wait to ask questions. Move. They broke into a run, weaving through the trees. The hunters followed from above, their feet barely making a sound on the branches. Every few seconds, one would drop down trying to cut them off. A spear slammed into the ground, inches from Kale's leg. He dove to the side, rolling back to his feet. Leora grabbed his arm and pulled him onward, her strength dragging him faster. Then he could move alone. They burst through a wall of hanging vines only to find themselves standing at the edge of a wide pit. In the moonlight, Kale saw bones at the bottom. Hundreds of them. No way around, Kale asked quickly. Leora scanned the edges. No time. The hunters' shadows were closing in. Without warning, Leora grabbed Kale by the waist. Hold on. For Kale could argue, she leaped. They sailed over the pit, landing hard on the other side. Kale's legs buckled, but Leora steadied him with one hand. Grip was so firm it felt like she could crush bone without trying. The hunters didn't follow. They stood at the other edge of the pit, their eyes glowing faintly in the dark. One of them, a tall figure with a crown of snake fangs, pointed at Leora and said something sharp in their language. Leora's jaw tightened. The chieftain says the human is his prize, and that I am to be judged. Kale frowned. Judged. For what? For failing to complete the trial alone, she said flatly. Before Kale could protest, something whistled through the air. A net hit him square in the chest, the cords instantly tightening like living snakes. He tried to pull free, but the strands burned against his skin, sending a jolt of numbness through his muscles. Leora spun, slicing the net with a blade hidden at her side. The cords fell away, but it was too late. The hunters had leaped the pit. Kale fired his pistol, the blast lighting up the trees. One hunter fell, but two more closed in. Leora met them head-on, twisting one's arm until it snapped and kicking the other hard enough to send him crashing into a tree. But there were two. Many. Kale felt something strike the back of his head, and the world tilted, his vision blurred. The last thing he saw Was Leora still fighting? Her golden eyes blazing in the moonlight. Before darkness swallowed everything, Cale woke to the sound of the drum against lower now, but heavier. He was lying on the ground, wrists bound with vine rope. The air was thick with the smell of smoke and burning meat. When his vision cleared, he saw them, the tribe, gathered in a wide circle around a roaring fire. And at the center, standing, beside the chieftain, was Laura. She wasn't bound. She wasn't even resisting. She was staring at Cale and saying nothing. The firelight painted everything in shifting reds and golds. Shadows of the tribe's warriors danced across the clearing as they moved to the slow beat of a drum. The air smelled of burning wood, roasted meat, and something sour that Cale couldn't place. He sat in the dirt, wrists bound, his back aching from the blow that had knocked him out. Round him, alien faces stared, painted with stripes of black and crimson, their eyes glinting like those of predators. They whispered to one another in a language Cale couldn't understand. But the tone carried meaning, contempt, mockery, curiosity. Above them, strung between the high branches, hung the skins of giant snakes, stretched and dried like banners. Their scales shimmered in the firelight, trophies of past hunts. Cale's gaze shifted to the center of the circle. Leora stood beside the chieftain, a tall, broad alien, with shoulders draped in a cloak of snake scales. His face was marked with jagged scars, and his fangs were filed to sharp points. In one hand he held a long staff tipped with a serpent's skull. Leora wasn't bound. She wasn't smiling either. Her hands rested at her sides, but her posture was rigid. She avoided Cale's eyes. The chieftain raised his staff and spoke, his voice deep and commanding. The tribe answered with a unified chant. Cale caught only one word repeated several times: trial. Leora finally turned her gaze toward him. There was no warmth there, no gratitude for saving her from the snake. Instead, she looked conflicted. "What's going on?" Cale demanded, his voice carrying across the circle. She hesitated before answering. "The trial of strength is sacred to my people. When you interfered, you made me incomplete. According to the law, I must face judgment." Cale frowned. "And what does that have to do with me?" Her jaw tightened. "Everything. You are part of my failure now." Chieftain spoke again, and Leora translated without looking at him. "Says you are a trespasser in our hunting ground, that your life belongs to him now." Cale forced a humorless laugh. "Great, I'm a prize." "Also says," she continued, "that if I want to keep my place in the tribe, I must prove my worth by deciding your fate." The circle erupted with voices, some urging her to kill him, others calling for the pit in their tongue. The word sent a ripple through the crowd like excitement before a feast. "What's the pit?" Cale asked slowly. Leora's eyes flickered. Toward him, then back to the chieftain. "You don't want to know." The chieftain stepped forward, planting his staff in the ground so hard the dirt shook. He produced a long, curved blade from his belt and offered it to Leora. The meaning was clear: kill the human now. Cale's heart pounded, but he didn't look away from her. "You don't have to do this." She held the blade, weighing it in. Her hand, her eyes searched his face for something: fear, maybe, or defiance. What she found made her lips twitch in the faintest smirk. "I will not kill him," she said suddenly, her voice loud enough for the whole tribe to hear. The reaction was instant. Shouts erupted. Chieftain's face hardened, and he barked. Something sharp. Leora threw the blade into the dirt at his feet. "You want proof of my strength?" she said to him in their language, stepping closer until they were almost nose to nose. "Then put him in the pit. I will go in too, and I will show you I can end the beast while protecting the human." The crowd roared with approval at this. New ideas, some in excitement, others in disbelief. Cale blinked. "You're volunteering us for what sounds like a death match." Her eyes found his again. "Better than watching you die while I stand here?" The chieftain considered her for a long moment, then nodded once. He raised his staff, and the drumbeat quickened. Warriors stepped forward, untying Cale's wrists, only to grab his arms and pull him toward the far side of the clearing. As they dragged him away, Cale caught Leora falling into step beside him. Her voice was low enough for only him to hear. "If we survive the pit," she murmured, "you will understand why my people respect strength above all else." Kale gave her a sideways glance. "Then if we don't," she smiled faintly, that dangerous smile he'd seen after she killed the snake. "Then at least you'll die proving something." They reached a massive wooden gate at the edge of the camp. Beyond it, Kale heard a deep, slow breathing like a bellows pumping air. Whatever was behind there was big. Too big. The gate creaked open, and the smell hit him, first musky, rotten, and reptilian. The ground inside the pit was covered in trampled bones. In the shadows, something moved. Something with scales that shimmered like oil and eyes like burning coals. The crowd chanted above, the word trial echoing in Kale's ears as he stepped inside. The wooden gate slammed shut behind them, sealing Kale and Leora inside. The crowd's chanting faded into a low hum. Like the jungle itself was waiting. The pit was wider than Kale expected, nearly 50 paces across, ringed by high wooden walls. Slick with moisture, the ground was uneven, littered with bones, shattered armor, and half-buried weapons. Oh! It smelled like rot, old blood, and something sharp that stung the nose. Kale's fingers tightened around the hilt of the short blade they had given him, rusted but sharp enough to cut. Leora stood a few paces away, crouched slightly, her eyes scanning the shadows. "Stay close," she said without looking at him. Before Kale could answer, he heard the slow scrape of something heavy dragging across the ground. A shape emerged. From the far corner of the pit, at first Kale thought it was another snake. Its body was long, thick, and scaled. But then he saw the arm's two muscular limbs ending in clawed hands. The creature reared up, balancing on the coil of its lower body, its chest plated with overlapping bone-like armor. Its head was not like a serpent's, but more like a crocodile's, wide flat with rows of jagged teeth, and in its eyes was thought, not blind animal rage. Intelligence, it hissed night, the wild sound of a beast, but something deliberate, almost like speech. Leora's expression hardened. "It knows we're not from the same blood. It will test us before it kills us." The creature circled, its coils dragging through the dirt with a low hiss. Kale shifted to keep it in sight, but it moved faster than something its size should be able to. It struck suddenly. Kale dove aside, feeling the rush of air as its claws sliced past his head. Leora was already moving, leaping onto its back, her legs locking around its thick neck. She slammed her blade into the gap between its armored plates. The creature roared and spun violently, throwing her off. She hit the ground hard but rolled to her feet. Kale saw his chance. He slashed at one of its arms, the blade biting into muscle. Black blood sprayed, sizzling as it hit the dirt. The beast's tail whipped around, catching Kale across the chest and sending him flying. His back hit the wall, the breath driven from his lungs. Through the haze he saw the creature slither toward him, jaws opening wide. Then Leora was there, shoving him aside at the last second. The jaws slammed shut on empty air, teeth sparking against the pit wall. Kale gasped for breath. "Remind me to thank you. If we live." Leora didn't answer. She was watching the creature closely now, her head tilted like she was listening. "It's not just attacking, it's studying us." As if to prove her point, the creature stepped back, its glowing eyes fixed on them both. Then, in a slow, deliberate motion, it drew one claw across the ground, leaving a deep line in the dirt. It tapped the mark twice and waited. Kale frowned. "What the hell is that supposed to mean?" Leora's expression darkened. "It's offering a choice. It's one of us steps forward, the other walks out alive." The meaning hit Kale like ice water. "It wants us to fight each other. That is the oldest rule of the trial," she said. Quietly, "The beast kills the weaker. Stronger earns freedom." The crowd above began shouting again, stamping their feet in rhythm, hungry for blood. Kale shook his head. "Not happening." Leora's eyes flickered conflict, then resolve. "If we refuse, it will kill us both." "Then we make a third option," Kale said, gripping his blade tighter. The beast hissed, clearly displeased with their hesitation, and lunged. This time, Kale and Leora moved as one. Kale ducked under the sweeping tail while Leora vaulted over it, landing on the beast's back. Kale slashed at the same wound she'd made earlier, driving the blade deep. The creature bellowed, its coils thrashing wildly. Leora grabbed its jaw, forcing its head back while Kale drove the blade into the soft flesh beneath its chin. The beast convulsed, its claws raking furrows in the dirt, then dashed with a final shudder. Went still. For a moment, neither of them moved. Then Leora stepped back, breathing hard, her eyes on Kale. "You broke the trial," she said. "Again." Kale managed between breaths. She nodded, but this time there was a faint smile. "You lived." Above them, the crowd was silent. Then, slowly, the chieftain began to clap. Once, tweet. The entire tribe joined in, the sound like rolling thunder. The gate creaked open. Warriors stepped forward, not to drag them away, but to gesture toward the camp. "You've earned a place here," Leora said softly, "even if they don't trust you." Kale gave her a sidelong glance. "And you?" Her golden eyes met his. "I trust you enough to fight beside you again. That's all that matters." The tribe's warriors escorted Kale and Leora back through the gates, but the mood was different now. No jeering, no shouts for blood. Instead, there was a quiet, heavy respect in the way the warriors looked at them, though in Kale's case, it was mixed with suspicion. The chieftain led them to the center of the camp, where the great fire still roared. He raised his serpent skull staff and spoke in a deep, rolling voice. The tribe answered in a single booming chant. Then, with a gesture, he ordered Kale and Leora to kneel. Kale glanced at Leora. "What's this? Some kind of welcome?" "Not exactly," she murmured. "It is the choosing." Before Kale could ask, a group of elders stepped forward, each wearing a necklace made from the fangs of different beasts. One carried a bowl filled with a thick, dark liquid that steamed faintly in the cool night air. Another held a long strip of pale cloth, its surface marked with strange symbols. "They will decide if you are worthy to stay among us." "Shh," Leora explained quietly. "If they choose you, the cloth is tied around your wrist.
Oh.
It means you are under tribal protection and bound to the one who fought beside you." Kale raised a brow. "Bound, as in permanently." She met his gaze without flinching. "Till one of us dies." The elders began circling them, chanting in low, rhythmic tones. The liquid in the bowl gave off a sharp, metallic smell, blood mixed with something bitter. An elder dipped the cloth into it until it turned deep crimson. Kale felt the weight of every stare in the camp. They were all waiting to see if he would accept this strange binding or reject it and risk offending them. One elder stopped in front of him and spoke in the tribe's language. Leora translated softly. "He asks if you will honor the bond. It is more than protection, it is loyalty. If I call, you come. If you bleed, I bleed. If one of us falls, the other carries the vengeance." Kale let the words settle. He had known Leora for less than a day. She had tried to test him, nearly attacked him, dragged him into a death pit, and yet, without her, he'd be nothing more than bones in the dirt right now. He gave a single nod. "I accept." The elder's expression didn't change, but his eyes seemed to sharpen. He wrapped the blood-soaked cloth around Kale's wrist, knotting it tightly. The smell of iron filled Kale's senses. Then the elder turned to Leora, wrapping the other end around her wrist until they were connected by a single strip of crimson fabric. The crowd murmured at the sight. It was not common, Kale realized, for a human to wear such a mark. The chieftain spoke again, his gaze fixed on Kale. Leora's lips tightened at the translation. "He says you are part of the tribe now. It's not truly one of them. You are here because I claim you. If I fall, so will your place." Kale met the chieftain's eyes and said nothing. He didn't need to. His silence was enough of a challenge. That night, the tribe celebrated the trial's end with a feast. Fires burned high, roasting thick cuts of meat from beasts Kale couldn't name. Drums pounded, and warriors danced in heavy, stomping patterns. Leora sat beside Kale, but he noticed she was never entirely at ease. Her gaze kept flicking to certain warriors who watched them too closely. "They don't all accept you," she said in a low voice. "I figured," Kale replied. "Had warmer welcomes?" She didn't smile. "Some think the trial was luck. They believe you slowed me down. They would like to see you fail." Kale leaned back, scanning the crowd. "Then they'll be disappointed." Her golden eyes lingered on him for a long moment. "I hope you mean that, because tomorrow you will see what living here truly means." Before he could ask, a warrior approached and placed something at Kale's feet, a long, curved fang the size of his forearm. Leora's eyes narrowed. "A gift," she said, "or a warning." Kale picked it up, feeling its weight. The fang was old, worn, but still sharp. "Which is it?" She looked into the firelight. Here, they are often the same thing. The celebration had ended hours ago. Most of the tribe was asleep, their fires dying down to glowing embers. The jungle was quieter now, but Kale had learned that in this place. Quiet meant nothing was safe. He sat near the edge of the camp, sharpening the rusted blade they had given him in the pit. The crimson cloth still bound his wrist to Leora's sit was loose enough to move, but the knot never came undone. The faint smell of dried blood lingered on it. "You're awake, Leora's." The voice came from behind him. She stepped into the moonlight, her silver hair glinting like frost. She carried her own weapon across her back, her eyes scanning the dark tree line. "I don't sleep well when I'm surrounded by people who'd rather see me dead," Kale replied. Her lips curved faintly. "You're learning." She crouched beside him, her gaze drifting to the blade in his hands. "The chieftain spoke to me tonight. He says the tribe will never fully trust you. Even after the trial, there are some who will see you as a threat to the old ways." Kale kept working on the edge of the blade. "So what? I'm not here to win a popularity contest." She hesitated before saying, "He also says the jungle is changing. The trials are not enough anymore. Something is driving the great beasts toward the tribe. Something worse than snakes." Kale looked at her now, "And he wants us to deal with it." "No," she said simply. "He wants me to stay here and defend the tribe. But I will not." That caught him off guard. "Why?" Her golden eyes held his. "Because I have fought beside you. I know the strength of humans now. And I know the jungle's dangers cannot be faced with strength alone. I will leave with you." Kale's instinct was to argue this was her home, her people, but he saw the resolve in her eyes. She had already decided. They packed lightly just weapons, a small pouch of dried meat, and a flask of water each. By dawn, the camp was still asleep, save for one figure, the chieftain. He stood at the gate, leaning on his serpent skull staff. As they approached, he spoke in his low, booming voice. Leora translated quietly. He says, "If we leave, we may never return. If we fall out there, our blood will not be avenged." Kale stepped forward, meeting the chieftain's gaze. "Tell him we don't plan on falling." Leora smirked faintly at his words, then spoke them in her language. The chieftain's expression didn't change, but he stepped aside. Letting the gate creak open beyond the wall, the jungle waited live, with shifting shadows and the glow of strange plants. The air was heavy, damp, and humming with distant calls. Kale could already feel eyes watching them from the trees. They walked in silence at first. Moving through the thick undergrowth, the vines hung low, the ground soft under their boots. Far away, a deep, rumbling roar rolled through the trees. Leora glanced at him. "That is not a snake." "I figured," Kale said, gripping his blade tighter. By midday, they reached the place where he had first heard her scream, the clearing where the giant snake had fallen. The carcass was gone, but the ground was torn up, the trees clawed as if something had dragged it away. Kale crouched, touching the deep gouges in the dirt. Whatever took it was bigger. Leora nodded, her expression grim. "And it will follow the scent of blood." The undergrowth rustled suddenly. Both of them turned, weapons ready. A pair of glowing eyes blinked from the shadows, too low to be a predator's, too small to be a hunter's. A young alien child stepped out, clutching a broken spear. She looked terrified, her clothes torn, and she spoke in rapid, panicked words. Leora's eyes widened. She says her village was destroyed. Leora translated quickly, by something they call the Coil King. Kale straightened slowly. That sounds like trouble. It is worse than trouble, Leora said, her voice low. It is a beast older than my people's history. If it moves this close to the tribe... She didn't finish the thought. The child clung to Leora's arm, eyes wide with fear. Kale looked from the girl to the jungle around them, feeling the weight of the crimson cloth still binding his wrist to Leora's. Well, Kale said finally, I guess our path just found us. Leora's smile was small but fierce. Then let us see if your human strength can match the Coil King. They stepped forward together, the jungle swallowing them in its shifting light. The drums of the tribe long gone, but the beat of danger still pounding in the air.